Okay, take it away, Kelly.
Go ahead and call it to order. Everybody, welcome to the Fortuna Chamber of Commerce noon Zoom meeting today. And Amber Woodward has agreed to lead us in today's Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Amber. You got to unmute yourself.
I guess that would be helpful. All right. So nobody stand because we're all in front of our computers. All right. I pledge allegiance to
the flag
of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Amber. Appreciate it. Do we have any new members or guests today that'd like to introduce themselves? Nobody? Well, then I will go ahead and turn it over to Renee for some chamber announcements. You are muted, Renee.
You know, I'm usually so much better at this. You'd think after like 6 months. Okay, so voting is now open at the Vets building. They'll be open today from 8 to 4 and then tomorrow 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can also drop your ballot off at the Ray's Food Place ballot drop box before 8 p.m. tomorrow. That's the cutoff for getting your mail-in ballot into Ray's. Next week, our chamber meeting will have Dr. Kimberly Paris from HSU. She's going to update us on the nursing program offered at HSU, so that should be a good program. Next Wednesday is Veterans Day, so the chamber office will be closed. That is November 11th. Our next mixer is Wednesday, November 18th. Mark your calendars. It'll be with Dr. Alex Service from the Depot Museum. This will be another virtual mixer. With a shelter in place scavenger hunt, door prizes, raffle, and a trivia game. We'll also have some local Fortuna history and a small giveaway for the first 20 people to join the mixer. So stay tuned for more details on that. Humboldt Neuro Health is celebrating their 1-year anniversary in Fortuna. We'll be doing a ribbon cutting soon to mark the occasion. So keep an eye out for that. And then this Friday, we're doing a ribbon cutting for Audrey Moore from Glow More Skin Studio. She just opened up her business about 2 weeks ago, I think. And she's at 1108 Main Street. She's on the other side of the Blades barbershop. So we'll be doing that this Friday, the 6th at 4 o'clock. Just bring a mask if you want to join us, and we'll get you in the picture. And that's all I've got.
Perfect. Thank you, Renee. So I'd like to turn it over for announcements from members at this time. Tammy, did you want to start with updates from the City Council?
Okay, we do have 2 meetings today. We have a special meeting at 1:30 today, which will be discussing an appeal and a building moratorium for the mill site. And then our meeting tonight at 7 o'clock, we'll be discussing unmet transit needs and let's see, a small wireless communication facilities and a business loan. And that's it.
Perfect. Thank you, Tammy. And do we have any other members that have announcements today? Okay, well, if not, then I'll go ahead and turn it over to our featured speaker, Enoch Ibarra, Fortuna Crime Prevention Specialist for our program today.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? I guess it's afternoon, isn't it?
Just barely.
So just a little correction there. I don't know that I'm a crime prevention specialist. I like to think of it as crime deterrence. I think crime prevention is pretty impossible, especially with the situation here in California, but I won't go further with that. We were supposed to have an FBI co-presenter this morning, so I put this disclaimer up. I didn't want to get in trouble and get a $25,000 fine for using copyrighted material. But what I prepared for you was just a presentation on cybercrime, and it's getting, well, it has gotten very serious. The last full year that the FBI's Internet Crime Prevention Complaint Center reported on the complaints that they received, in excess of 350,000 complaints. But I can tell you that that doesn't even come close to the number of actual cases, because we get complaints all the time, and I know that some of those people are not willing to go online and report some of the incidents. But the losses exceed $2.7 billion. It's almost $3 billion in losses of just the reported complaints. 17% of those are people over 60, and their losses amount to about $650,000. Just a drop in the bucket, huh? So I hope everybody can see what I've got on the screen. These are some of the recent news headlines of cyber attacks and things related to computer hacking. Some of them are pretty major. One of the ugly things that just popped up the past couple of weeks that everybody's really concerned about, and it's not anything that's new, because there have been other hospitals that have been hit with ransomware, but there is an ongoing threat to medical facilities, including large hospitals, receiving ransomware attacks, to where their systems are shut down. They can't get into their records, can't get into their equipment until they pay a ransom. And there are 4 hospitals that I know of in the past week in California that were hit with ransomware attacks. Mr. Trump said that nobody can get hacked, and his account got hacked twice in 1 week. Some of the things that you have to worry about as a business and as an individual are the destruction of your information. And that could be, financial account information, to where somebody actually wipes out your account or takes the money from your account. Disruption of critical services, and there's a lot of that going on. Some of it is denial of services. Some of them are distributed denial of services, and I'll explain what that's about in just a minute. A lot of us are used to hearing about hackers, guys, hanging out in dark rooms or in their mother's basement writing code. It's a lot more simple now for them to, put viruses and malware on our computers. The ones that we're used to, the hackers, those are what we call unstructured attacks. They usually don't have any information. Sometimes they're individuals. They don't have much funding, but nowadays that's not really a problem. Some of the attacks are based on documented flaws in software or some of the hardware, and they're using pre-made tools, and that I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. And a lot of them are targets of opportunity. It's estimated that about 81% of the unstructured attacks are actually targets of opportunity. Where the hacker is using social engineering, where they're having people do things that they ordinarily wouldn't do or have been taught not to do. And that's why it's real important that you educate your employees and that you monitor their activity online, because all these things, all these attacks could happen to your business computers. Monkey in the middle is also man in the middle. That's something, if you're traveling, a lot of you travel, you use your computers at motels, or you use it at Starbucks or McDonald's, and you're using their Wi-Fi. That's where a man or a monkey in the middle attack can happen, because people can glom onto whatever you are broadcasting through their open, unencrypted Wi-Fi, and either get your confidential information off of there, your passwords, your account information, or dump spyware or adware or viruses onto your computer. Wow, I don't know why these little squares are showing up. I apologize for that. Another thing that has to do with Wi-Fi is your Wi-Fi at home or in your office is war driving. That's where somebody's actually driving around with either their phone or device that can sense where there is an open Wi-Fi router and glom onto your machine if you don't have it password protected, or if your password is not sufficiently difficult enough for somebody to crack. And I can tell you that the majority of people have passwords that are very, very easy to figure out. Once you know a little bit about them, especially if you go on their social network, look at their Facebook page, their Twitter account, after a while, you start knowing enough about them that you can probably figure out what their password is. One of the things about the malware out there is that they can install a backdoor where they can actively monitor what's going on your computer and remotely access it. And the same can happen to your phone, okay, to where somebody can go ahead and turn on your microphone or turn on your camera. Same with your tablets. So I already talked to you about the man in the middle attacks, and this is just a graphic of how it works. And there's really nothing very difficult about it. I was going to show you one of the devices, but I thought better of it because you can actually buy it on the internet for less than $100. And you can set yourself up outside of Starbucks or McDonald's or anybody who has an open Wi-Fi and start taking people's information. Now, script kiddies are what I've been talking about. These are people who use readily available tools. They can buy the malware, they can buy the viruses online, and they usually don't have a lot of knowledge of hacking like hackers used to have. They rely on other people's knowledge and their software to go ahead and exploit your machines. Piracy groups, they're there to steal things that, are copyrighted, sometimes for bragging rights, sometimes to be the first ones to have them, or just because they feel that it's not illegal for them to download what's available on the internet. So some of these groups are cyber criminals. I mean, they're there to, get on computers for criminal purposes. You've got insiders, and that's a big threat to businesses. You've got people who, for whatever reason, they may take issue with your political stands, your social, stands as far as a business, and decide that they want to take your business down or hurt you. One of the things that has been in the news a lot is nation states, and we're talking about countries. And I'm going to talk about some specific countries in a minute. And hacktivists, people who hack because they have some type of social agenda, and terrorist organizations. So this is an example of a couple of pricings. I've got a whole list of pricings for different tools that hackers can use. But you can buy some malware. If I wanted to put some malware on Mike Losey's computer, I could get some free off the internet. Or I could pay up to $20,000. It's available on there, readily available. If I want to send spam out to the city email accounts or business accounts here in the city, I could spend maybe $1 to $4 for every 1,000 emails of spam that are sent out. Pretty cheap. Now, structured attacks are a lot more organized. They've got more money, and a lot of times they have specific targets, okay? And sometimes they're looking for flaws in the operating system or software that somebody's using. Could be Microsoft operating system. It could be Windows operating system. Could be Google. But they will exploit whatever flaws they can either find or have been published. And the flaws are published regularly. There are industry magazines that you can go to learn that information. So some of the attacks, and like I said, the most common is social engineering, where the human factor is always the weakest link in your security. It's always the weakest link, and it's the one that you have to be the most careful about. Botnets is where you've got an attacker taking control of a bunch of computers to wind up with a whole chain of computers to increase the computing power of an attack. And a lot of times that's used for distributed denial of services, where they are using all these machines to attack specific targets to overload them and keep them from being accessed. A denial of service, a basic denial of service, usually uses one machine, but a distributed denial of service is using multiple machines. And zero-day exploits, I'm sure you've heard of, but what they're looking for is they're looking for a flaw in a software or some hardware flaw that has not been discovered. And zero-day is begins when it's hacked, and then after that, it's day one once it's discovered. And those happen all the time. They happen all the time, and that's why it's very important that you continually upgrade and update your software, your browsers, your operating system, those types of things. Google was recently had an attack of denial of service. They tried to take it down, and their attacks have grown exponentially in the past 10 years. You can see this graph over here. And this is a fairly recent attack. They were able to control the attack and keep from going down, although I can tell you that they did have some problems where Google was inaccessible, Gmail was inaccessible. So it is happening, and it's happening regularly. Two other industries that are being targeted are education and research. Okay, and those usually are being targeted by nation states. This is a denial of service I was talking to you about. So this is from a recent headline. Is from the CISA, and they oversee the cyber infrastructure for the country, and look at what type of hacking is going on, attempts to penetrate the government networks and machines. And they have reported that hackers have gained access to our election systems. So this is just one report that came from the FBI. Sometimes you'll get them as a business if they're marked green. A lot of times we'll share them with you. But to U.S. municipalities, that's just on this report, but I can tell you there are a whole bunch of other municipalities throughout the United States that have been breached, and some of them have been hit with ransomware to where they have not been able to access any of their controls for their water treatment, their public service records, and things like that. Google was warning, or is warning, that there's 33,000 state-sponsored attacks, but if there are some sites where you can actually go and take a look at the actual real-time attacks going on and who they're targeting, where they're targeting, what type of attacks, it's pretty scary. One of the countries, one of the nation states that has popped up prominently in the news is China. The People's Republic of China. And one of the reasons is that apparently as part of their policies, they have an ongoing 5-year plan that they are targeting specific industries in countries, not necessarily emerging countries, but in countries that have fairly developed technology. And some of the sectors that they have identified in their latest plan are these. So, and one of the groups that has been identified by some of the security agencies is APT-31, which is kind of an agent of the Chinese government and Chinese military. And they have been able to impersonate, McAfee security. They've been able to get on GitHub and place their malware on computers. So some of the things that, are being targeted are control monitoring devices, water treatment plants, like I said, electrical treatment plants, nuclear power plants, the communication systems. I know that not too long ago, several months ago, 911 systems were out in some of the major municipalities on the West Coast. And, other parts of the critical infrastructure that are controlled by computers, and that includes traffic lights, traffic monitoring systems, and things like that. For you folks who have businesses, some of the things that you have to worry about and should be concerned about are your point of sale, where you are, taking credit cards, whether it's swiping or you're inserting them. There are devices that can insert malware into your machine that shows a sale as being approved without it being approved, and every subsequent sale after that winds up being approved, even though it's bogus. Skimmers at ATMs and gas pumps, public charging stations where you're charging your vehicles and things like that, or where you're charging your phones, computers, and tablets. The other thing that a lot of people don't think about, besides those charging stations at airports and other places, are charging cables that you may buy, at a discount at some retail store. Some of those contain malware, and you have to be very careful. And we've already talked about the Wi-Fi hotspots. Those are a real vulnerability, a real risk. So some of the other nation state, the other countries that are majorly involved in hacking, industries are the Russian Federation. Of course, I already talked about Russia, Iran, and believe it or not, North Korea, which has a very robust cyber unit that is dedicated to doing nothing but hacking and breaking into other countries and businesses to spy and get their technology or to take down their technology. Another group that I don't know if you've heard of them, but it's the Syrian Electronic Army, and their purpose is the same as the North Korean group. And then there's cyber criminals and cyber terrorists, and then the activists, like I've told you before. They are out there, and they're very active. This is the government agency that oversees a lot of this. And if you want to know what is going on as far as cybersecurity and cyber attacks, hacks, and things like that before they show up in the media, that's the site to go to. I'll leave it up there for just a few more seconds. If anybody wants me to keep it up there longer, just let me know, or I'll come back to it. So, their voice, those are all connected to the internet. How about your vehicle? Your vehicles now, the modern vehicles, the latest vehicles have all sorts of computers in them. And now one of the things that is out there, not on a lot of vehicles, but on some, is internet connected tires. Believe it or not, you would probably not be surprised at how much information our investigators can get off of devices on a car. So this is a browser where you can actually go and take a look at some of the interconnected devices in a community. So let me talk about some of the latest online scams that we're seeing here in the community. And a lot of them are not new. Amazon Purchase Security Alert, where you get an alert on your phone or email saying that there's been a large purchase on your Amazon account and they need you to call this number. Don't call the number. It's not Amazon. PG&E calling that your gas and electric is going to be shut off in a few hours unless you call them and make a payment. Credit card security alert that your credit card security unit has found some suspicious purchases. They're calling you to report those, and please call them back. IRS scam, Social Security, jury service default warrant where you didn't show up for jury duty. There's a warrant for your arrest. You can pay the fine online. And virtual kidnapping, I'm going to talk to you about that, and relative in jail or accident, which are similar. But those are worrisome. Another country that may be in some ways actively involved in some of these cyber crimes is Mexico. And the reason I say that is a lot of these virtual kidnappings where you get a phone call that one of your relatives is being held hostage, and that if you pay the ransom, then they'll go ahead and release the person. These a lot of times are being run out of Mexican prisons, and they're being run by the guards and the criminals in cooperation with each other. The guards get money, the prisoners get privileges, and on and on. There was a case earlier this year. There were 14 nurses that had gone to help out with the COVID outbreak, and they were virtually kidnapped. This is another version of this virtual kidnapping. They were told that the hotel or building where they were staying was being monitored by the cartels, by the gangs down there. And they were told that they were not to leave, that they would be monitored, and there would be grave consequences if that happened. The criminals contacted the families of the victims. They demanded ransom. From what I understand, the ransom was not paid. And the Mexican military went ahead and got these nurses out of there. There really was no physical danger to them, but they believe there was. They wound up tracing the calls coming from Tamaulipas state, which borders Texas, from a prison there. So I have dealt with 2 virtual kidnapping calls in the past month here in Fortuna, and I'm telling you what I told those people. Don't use the name of the person who you think was kidnapped, because a lot of times they will not say, George or what have you. They might, but they might not. But ask to speak to that person. Okay, they kept promising that they were going to allow this person, the last person I talked to speak to the person. They made 2 phone calls to him, but don't share any personal information about yourself or your family, okay? Because that just makes it harder to determine whether it's legitimate or not. And if you have any doubts at all, ask only questions that the victim, who they claim they have a hostage, would know to answer. Okay, the smartest thing is just to hang up. Don't take those calls, and do not agree to pay the ransom. One of the twists now on these ransom calls is they are asking people to go across the border to pay them, and so you wind up being the next hostage. So please don't do that. One of the more worrisome things that we're seeing, not only in some of the campaign hacks, but also on some of the other sites, is where they're using deep fakes, where they're using artificial intelligence to manipulate video and audio so that you believe you're seeing a real video of that person. And this particular story was of a widow whose husband had recently died. She went on the dating site Match.com to try and find some dates and some company. And they hooked her up with a guy who they said was a superintendent of the United States Naval Academy. She thought she was talking to him. What they had actually done is manipulated videos from his public appearances so that it appeared that they were conversing, they were communicating, but that was not the case. Some of the vulnerabilities, and probably the biggest vulnerability for most people is social media. They share too much information, way too much information. And it's very easy for cyber criminals to get information from them, whether it's personal information or business information. And I really need to caution you folks about that. Free Wi-Fi, be very wary of it. I would recommend that you look for a reliable VPN, virtual provider network, so that what you're doing is you're going on with encrypted software through the free Wi-Fi that sends you to a virtual provider, a server, could be in the United States, could be overseas, and your encrypted information is being received over there, and the free Wi-Fi, anybody seeing the free Wi-Fi cannot see your information. Your routers, your home routers are also a vulnerability, and you'd be surprised at how much information can be obtained from those. So just so that you know that, you may think that they're fairly innocuous, they're just a nice little tool, but they present a huge vulnerability for you. One of the things that I need to caution you about is your programs and your apps, your operating systems. Go to them, look at your privacy settings. A lot of them by default are open. They allow sharing of information. You need to go on there and make sure that you're not doing that unknowingly. So some of the things that I recommend too is use a very strong and unique password that contains numbers, capital letters, lowercase letters, and symbols. And again, avoid sharing any personal or confidential information on social media. And that includes on Facebook, texting or chat, Google, Yahoo. Those sites are all dedicated to data mining. If you're sharing a document on there, it's going to data mine the information from there, believe it or not. Okay. And, those sites that show up on your Facebook page with stuff that you like, don't go on there. Please don't go on there. They're data mining your information based on your interests, and some of those sites are not legitimate. Many of them are not legitimate. Update your operating system, your browser and programs, and again, check your security settings and make sure you update your programs. Clean your browser cache. It contains a lot of information. You can go on Google and go back through the entire history of your Google account by typing history.google.com and erasing information that is on there. Okay, so I hope I stayed within the 15 minutes. Any questions?
Renee, I do have a couple of questions.
We're listening.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, I'll go ahead and ask the questions because I've got like 3 of them or so. So I'll ask them, and then if you could either remember them or write them down. Enoch, regarding the ransomware attacks that you mentioned with the hospitals, do you have knowledge if the hospitals actually paid those ransoms, or how they, how they settled that particular issue, and if those attacks were in country or from out of country? And then you were talking about targets of opportunity, and you mentioned that about employers that their employees would possibly be enticed to do things that they wouldn't normally do. What types of things, for those who have employees in the chamber, what types of things would you be talking about that they might be enticed to do that they normally wouldn't do? And then in generally speaking, how safe are or how good are those commercial programs that you can download onto your computer to safeguard your computer from these malware attacks and all of these? And I know there are some name brands out there. But just how safe are those commercial products?
Okay, well, I'll start with the ransomware question. I know that one major hospital did pay the ransom. No, they weren't able to determine who actually targeted them. They believe that it's a nation state. They believe it's a country. Some two other hospitals that I'm aware of actually had to start putting in new operating systems, very costly, as you can imagine. Some of the others, I don't know what's going on. Some of that stuff is very sensitive. A lot of times they don't want to reveal the source because of ongoing investigations. But that's basically all I know at this point. Now, as far as targets of opportunity and insider exploitation, one of the simplest ones is, and this happened at, I think it was Symantec that has Norton, where they left a USB hanging around, a USB drive. And that happens a lot in businesses that are targeted with malware. They'll leave a USB on somebody's desk. Somebody will get curious, they'll plug it into the computer. And if your computer is set to run a program automatically, and that's one of the settings I want you to take a look at on your operating system, make sure that you do not have that you have to manually execute a program, and it'll execute the malware. And then it'll start multiplying and doing whatever it's supposed to be doing. It could be a Trojan horse that, is waiting to infect other machines. And so that's one. Another one is where an employee will get either an email or a call from a business saying that, your business owes, or you've got some stock coming in, some products, and they need you to, authorize or what have you. And so that's one of the things where your policies need to be real clear of who can authorize payments or purchases of products. The third question about how safe are programs that you download. The ones that are free, I'd be very cautious about. I'd be extremely cautious about. And especially the free VPNs. I personally would never use a free VPN because you don't know what information they're mining, who is actually behind the company that is providing the VPN. As far as antiviral programs, they're all pretty good. My favorite is Kaspersky, but I would never put it on my computer anymore, simply because it's owned by a Russian company that is allied with the Russian government. It's probably the best antivirus on the market, but there's no way I'm going to put it on my machine. McAfee and Norton are pretty equal, but I will tell you that Norton was hacked a few years back. Who knows what information they got from them? But most of the programs are pretty good. I would be very leery about putting a free antivirus program on my machine. I'm not going to tell you the name of it, but it's highly recommended by a lot of people as a free antivirus program that a lot of people put on their computer. Good luck trying to get it off your computer. So be very careful. Any other questions? Did I answer your questions, Mike?
You did. I appreciate it. And, Kaspersky was one of the major safeguards that many computer companies were suggesting to protect your computers.
That's right.
I mean, it was just out there all over.
Well, it's an excellent program. Yes, Bob.
Hey, Enoch, so there's a short story and a question. We work with a firm in Eureka who were the victims of ransomware, and they had cyber insurance that the insurer happened to be familiar with the cyber criminals and were able to negotiate like half the ransom, and then the insurance paid it. But it was the first I'd heard of cybercrime insurance. And I wonder if that's catching on, if it's available for individuals or worthwhile for individuals, or, you know, what sort of the legal community's perspective on that is.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak from that point of view, but yes, I'm aware that insurance does exist. I was thinking of starting my own insurance outfit specifically for ransomware, but it's a growing thing. It is a growing thing. Ransomware is very serious, and right now there are alerts to specific industries from the FBI about ransomware specifically. And so if any of you were approached about ransomware on your computer, contact us right away, please. It's a serious thing. My computer had ransomware on it, but it was so unsophisticated that I was able to clean it off in no time. I mean, it took a while, but I was able to figure out what they'd done. But I wouldn't recommend anybody else fooling around, because you have to know what you're looking for.
I have a question, Enoch.
Yes,
Hi,
Chris.
I'm Melissa, not Crispy Bacon.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I run the North Coast Journal, and this morning, actually, we got an email from our Alternative Weekly Network association that we're a part of, that some of our alternative weekly papers throughout the United States are currently being targeted by the DDoS, I believe it is, system. And I was just curious, like, if that happens to me, like in the journal site, what is my best course of action to do as a local business owner? Do I call Nilex? Do I call you? Because I gotta tell you, when stuff goes like haywire in the IT world at the journal, we're like, what do we do?
Yeah.
So I think that's the case for a lot of us here locally. So what should I do?
Well, number one, if you have Nilex, call them immediately, because they can go ahead and make sure that the ports on your system and your firewall are up. Okay, those are protections for you, and making sure that your antivirus is up, because if somebody accidentally shut it off, you got a problem. You've got a problem. And even if the antivirus is working, they can still slip through. There are, weaknesses in those systems. But call Nilex, and then call the local law enforcement agency. Charles is very knowledgeable about those things. He might be able to walk you through stuff if there's a problem. But we need to know what's going on, because sometimes there are groups of attacks that are going on, and sometimes we think they're just isolated, and they're not. But we do have access to some exceptional specialists, cyber specialists, that do nothing but forensics, and we can reach them with one phone call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've already been able to figure out where they're coming from, and they're coming from Moldova, Russia. Right?
Well, they may or may not be coming from Moldova. It just depends on how they're routing the traffic, but that doesn't surprise me at all. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, call Nilex, which is what I would have done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you have computer experts working on your system, they can go ahead and do a check to make sure that your ports aren't exposed, because that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be looking to see if ports that are receiving information are unprotected, if they're open, and whether your firewall is up. Those are really important safeguards for you.
Thanks.
Did I misspeak, Charles? Like I told you, Charles is the expert here, not me.
You got it.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What about sweetheart scams? Have you seen an increase in cases in our area specifically in regards to those? Or
Yes. Sweetheart scams are very big. They're probably number one. in the cyber crime world right now, besides the larger ransomware things, because people are very vulnerable. They're very gullible. They're looking for, they're somebody who they can trust. And some of these criminals are very manipulative. That's where human engineering comes in. They get to learn something about the person enough that they can start exploiting the vulnerabilities in that person's life. And yeah, we've had people who have been taken for quite a bit of money. So yes, it does happen. And yes, it is increasing.
That's the saddest.
It is.
Yeah, it
They're
really
heartbreaking.
is. It really is.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's out there. I've seen lots of cases. It's yeah, it's a problem. Any other questions? Did I answer your questions, or did I leave you with more questions than answers?
I'm scared.
You think you're scared? You ought to see the stuff I see that I can't share with you.
Oh, goodness. So one of my questions in regards to the sweetheart scams, any specifics that, in dealing with, my customer base and probably Bob too, when we come across that, and it seems to me in all my years of banking, periodically you come across them, but more and more recently, it's people that you don't think would fall victim to it. You think are above that, or they know and they don't, and it's so scary. What are some suggestions or talking points that maybe we should go into with a customer, or ideas?
Well, we could probably work with you in putting together a little sheet that you can say, do your homework, go on social media, see what social media is saying about this person. I mean, there are sites where you pay next to nothing and you can get people's background information. There are arrests and things like that. And so people should be doing their due diligence before they, wind up lending some sweetheart a whole bunch of money or their life savings, which happens all the time. But like I said, we'd be more than happy to help you try and put something out. Think about this. And I know our financial institutions here in Fortuna have been very good about helping people. And they have actually stopped some of these things from happening. But when people are bound and determined to do things against best advice, they're going to do it anyway. Charles, you have any other suggestion?
Nothing really, just, obviously like Enoch said, be aware and, diligent and all that stuff. It's, unfortunately, they're always one step ahead of us, or one step ahead of the antivirus. They're, you might think that you're completely protected and you're not. And then as far as the sweetheart scams, it happens locally a lot, and not going too much detail, but we had one just a few months ago where another lady, fell in love with somebody and ended up going to Nigeria, a Fortuna citizen going to Nigeria. Yep. She wound up deceased after the suspect drained all of her finances and convinced her that, she needed to help him. And, it happens local. That is a Fortuna specific case that you would think, it may not happen here, but it definitely does. So just be aware.
Any other questions? Don't be shy. I really appreciate your time. Yes.
I can ask you a funny one, Enoch. So two things.
We don't know who put your picture on there with the tiger and Putin.
No,
we still don't know.
That was the FBI. So you had posted, one of your graphics had phishing, which I'm aware of, and then you had vishing and smishing.
Yes.
And I think smishing has to do with the text messages
Correct.
that you get that say, I get these a lot from, quote unquote, Wells Fargo, and it's not Wells Fargo. And then you click the link and it looks like a duplicate of their website. So then what's vishing? That's question number one. And then what about all those links or to to things like, what tree are you, based on your birthday on Facebook. I see my
Oh,
friends,
yes. Yes.
doing
Well,
those, and I just cringe every time. And I want to take them because I want to know what kind of tree I would be, but then I don't, because I know I have to put in my email address and my birth date, and I'm not doing that. So anyway, those are my 2 questions.
yeah. Vishing is where you receive a message on your phone saying, we've been trying to reach you because the warranty on your car has gone out, or it could be the IRS thing, or Social Security, or the jail is trying to get a hold of you. It's basically a voice message. It's same thing as phishing. Just don't ever call. And you say you click on the links. Please don't click on the links. Please don't click on the links. Just put your cursor over the link, and down at the bottom left of your screen, it'll show you what the actual address is. Please don't click on the link. Now, these things, these idiotic things on Facebook, what kind of tree, what kind of military general would you be, those types of things. The reason those exist is to get information about you personally, to get a personality profile on you. That's the only reason they exist. And Facebook exists because they're magnanimous, and they love you and they want people to communicate. Yeah, well, that's garbage. They're there to get your voice so that they can develop voice recognition, get your picture so they can develop their facial recognition, and data mine your personal information. So just know that, okay? Any of those free sites, that's what they exist for.
Just to add on that, Enoch, I don't know if any of you guys have went onto Netflix and watched The Social Dilemma, but that's an eye-opening kind of documentary about Netflix and Snapchat. It's a bunch of former execs from those companies, and you'll watch that and you won't want to post or say anything on social media again, because they know more about you than you know about you. So if you ever get an opportunity, you have it. The Social Dilemma on Netflix came out earlier this year, and it's definitely an eye-opener for what they're doing with your data.
Yeah, I thought I was paranoid some years back when I worked for an agency that we can never say anything about, but I'm a lot more paranoid now, I've got to tell you.
Yeah, well, technology changes. Yeah, everything, it moves so fast now.
Well, and oh, go ahead, Kelly.
no.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say I have the social dilemma to watch, but I got to finish Blacklist first.
Yes. Well, we talk about those nation states. There's also 5 Eyes, 9 Eyes, and 21 Eyes. Anybody hear of those?
Mm-mm.
When we get off, I want you to look it up. Remember,
Is this putting me on an FBI watch list? If I do this?
oh, more than likely.
Are you spamming us?
Hey, Renee, you're already on a watch list. I hate to tell you.
Wait, say those again, Enoch.
It's 5 Eyes, 9 Eyes, and 21 Eyes. And that's eyes as in eyes in your head.
Okay. I'm gonna go be scared now.
Yeah, you think you're paranoid now. But that's all I'm going to say about them.
Great.
Anybody else have any? I'm sorry.
I did want to just give a little plug to one of our chamber member businesses, Ferndale Tech.
Please.
They do have, they have, it's not their own antivirus, but they also offer, I'm sure along with Nilex, which is also a chamber member, they have a monitoring system. So if they get threats, they can let you know, they can log into your computer and troubleshoot stuff. So just, I thought I would throw that out there because I'm pretty sure, I think their antivirus is made in New Zealand. It's MCSoft or something like that. So it's not a Russian-based company. I just thought I'd throw that out there. A little plug.
It's not 14 eyes, is it, Enoch? I can find 5, 9, and 14. I can't find 21.
You've been blocked, Chris.
You've been blocked. I probably misspoke. Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Hey, you know, Chris, you will learn that I have stupid
Melissa.
attacks pretty frequently. Yes, you're absolutely correct.
You have to know that Melissa likes to change her name on every meeting, so she's Crispy Bacon. Get it? Crispy.
I know, it's
Bacon.
Melissa, doggone it. She told me that at the beginning.
No, it's okay.
And Enoch, you totally know who I am because I used to be at your house all the time. My husband is Chris Sanderson, Tristan's BFF.
Oh, yes. Of course I know who you are. Oh,
Yep.
my.
And there you go.
It's a
No, I'm
small
sorry
world.
for giving you bogus information, but see, that's why you need to do your due diligence. Don't even trust me.
Well, we can't trust the media now too, right? Just kidding. I'm kidding. I love
You know, the media here in Humboldt County is actually very good.
Yes.
I really like them. So I
Anyway.
can't complain.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I was just going to thank you so much for the very informative meeting today.
Oh, you're welcome.
I know for me, I have a lot of takeaway and more questions probably to go forward. So I might be contacting you in the near future, Nick. And thank you so much, Charles, for joining us as well. I appreciate it. And so we will see you all hopefully next Monday for the HSU nursing program featured speaker. I think it was Kim Paris.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful
Thanks.
day.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Don't forget to vote.
See you guys.
Thank you.